So, have you ever thought about cyber risk and how it could affect your business? Or maybe your agent or somebody else has brought up cyber insurance and you thought, man, I wonder what that all covers. Well, I'm going to talk about it here in this episode because um, it's complicated. If you look at the policy, there's usually anywhere from 9 to 15 insuring agreements, some of them first party, some of them third party. And then even if you read the insuring agreements, you really got to get into the definitions to really know what's covered and what's not. And add a claim is not the time, when a claim happens is not the time to figure that out. So I'm going to give you a quick lay of the land here in this video. It's going to cover it from a very high level. And I'm talking primarily about specialty carriers that offer specialty cyber products. So the best in the market. There are a lot of different things that say cyber on them, but they're only going to cover one or two of these buckets, and usually at limits that are not sufficient. So already I use the analogy, if you've heard me before, I've done speaking arrangements with these things. I refer to it as a 4-bucket approach, or I talk about it like that there's 4 buckets of coverage that all of the insuring agreements kind of fall into. So first things first, you'll see up here, incident response I have as kind of an umbrella over everything. For almost every cyber incident, there's some level of incident response that is afforded to you by the policy. That could be forensics, it could be legal help, it could be both in most cases. Whenever there's a cyber incident, one of the best things you get from a cyber policy from a specialty carrier is going to be that incident response and that guidance they can offer to help you deal with the fallout of the incident. So that's number 1. The first bucket is data and privacy liability. So primarily talking about a combination of third-party and first-party coverages. But in the case of data, if you're a company that carries a lot of customer data, you have obligations by the law to notify people, to do a certain due diligence of your system to make sure that those people are protected. That's what this really pays for. Privacy is much broader, and it's a little bit different based on the policy, but it's far more common, or likely I should say, in my opinion, that it's going to get triggered, because we're really talking about one-off situations where you violated somebody's privacy. And so it's an important bucket, but I think we get too fixated on it because I think the other 3, frankly, are much more likely and much more common for your everyday middle market company. So this primarily depends mostly on industry, I would say. So if you're in an industry, you're going to know already that you have a huge privacy and data exposure. But if you're, say, like a manufacturer, we're probably going to focus on the other 3 buckets. So the second bucket is business continuity. So think about it, if you are a manufacturer, if a cyber incident was to occur, how long would it take you to get back up and running? And while you're not running, even if you're running but not as efficiently as possible, you're losing revenue, you're losing sales, you're losing productivity. And so those are the things that are covered by this bucket. I'm going to jump down here to crime. And really, what I'm talking about here is 2 things. One, primarily is phishing attacks. Phishing attacks are common. They happen to us every day. We've all experienced it. And they're extremely high attempt, low success rate. But they are the most common to find that person that isn't aware of what's going on, and they are getting more deceitful as time goes on. They're getting harder to spot, they're getting harder to recognize, and therefore being more successful. The good news is that these are not usually super high dollar attacks unless they string multiple together. Usually it's just people catch it before it gets out of control. So the problem from an insurance standpoint is it's usually sub-limited, $250,000. The good news is usually it's caught before it exceeds that. So the other part of this, I mentioned 2 parts, phishing and extortion or ransomware. Ransomware is inexplicably tied to business continuity, right? We're either going to pay the ransom or we're going to find a way to recover our systems and therefore creating a business continuity loss, but for the sake of getting back up and running. So usually triggered through email. I mean, that's the most common way, but it could be a lot of different ways. So trigger notwithstanding, I consider it part of the crime coverage, and we want to have coverage for it. Then last but not least, the media liability incidents that we see. So typically, these can take a lot of different avenues, but using somebody's images, somebody's copyrighted material on accident on a social media post or a website is typically what trips this up. Even your most basic cyber policies usually carry this. And I used to actually not talk about it much, but it happens more often than not. You have a little bit of coverage under GL as well, but I feel like that is fraught with exclusions and potential for a declination, whereas this is much more common, much more normal. So it's important to make sure you have it. Now keep in mind, if you're a radio station or a PR firm or somebody that's dealing with media every day, probably not going to get this coverage through cyber. You're probably going to use your professional liability to get it. So, but these are kind of the 4 buckets. So just to recap quickly, data and privacy. What data are we collecting as a company, and do we have to be concerned if we lose it? But I mean, the answer is yes, but how much weight you put on it is really where I lead you with that question. Business continuity. How do our operations suffer if we have a cyber incident? Are we going to lose money? Are we going to lose production? Or are we going to lose both? Cyber crime. What money is coming in, what money is going out, and are people aware that these attacks exist? Something you should be asking yourself. And then media liability. Are we advertising online? Almost everyone does to a certain degree. So almost everybody needs media liability to a certain level. So it's kind of the 4 bucket approach that I talk about. And thank you for listening.